Don't forget, ko-fi.com/stopwritingalone is a real simple way to show your support for what's going on here week after week. Hi everyone, this is Nicole Rivera and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast for writers who are looking for their writing community. I know you want to find readers for your work, but I think your first step is to connect with other writers. That's what we're going to do here in the Stop Writing Alone podcast. We'll do writing prompts and other writing group activities, discover online writing communities, learn how to find local writing groups, or how to make your own. Join us as we explore, learn, and write. Hi everyone, this is Nicole Rivera and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast. As part of my journey of creating the Stop Writing Alone podcast and the Stop Writing Alone community, I have come to meet some really incredible people along the way. And one of the things that brings me great joy is to share these people with you. Betsty Heeney is one of these people. I met Betsy, as you'll hear soon, in my first podcasting course with Cathy Heller. We were both getting ready to start our own journeys as podcasters, and we learned alongside each other. In the interim of me knowing Betsy, I have grown to love and admire all that she's doing and learn so much from her. What you're going to hear this week is this woman who is a writer, an artist, a teacher, someone who can teach us so much about finding our own voice, finding our place in this world, and building community. It's all the stuff that I love and want to bring to you, to us, in my life, and Betsy's doing it, and she's doing it authentically, and I'm honored to know her and feel privileged to share her with you. So here is our interview. Hey everyone, I have the great pleasure of being here today with a good friend of mine, Betsty Heeney, who you may remember was in my Everyone Can Podcast course with me. We sort of went through this crazy journey together. Betsy has the podcast Elder and Wiser, but she has just been such a role model to me day after day from that point forward of how to live life, how to get out there in the world and connect. And of course, Betsy's a writer too and a fellow teacher, so we connected right away on the teaching gig. But it is my great pleasure to introduce Betsty Heeney. Betsy, say hello to Stop Writing Alone and let people know a little bit about you, the wonderful you.
Oh, Nicole, that's such a nice introduction.
Did you
I'm
expect anything
blushing.
less?
I'm blushing. Well, hello everybody. Yep. My name is Betsy Heeney, and it's a real pleasure to be here, Nicole. And I'm really flattered you asked me, and particularly on the year anniversary of
Right.
our first face-to-face meeting we did a year ago out in California when we visited
Unbelievable.
Cathy Heller and
Yeah.
Dreamtopia.
The funny thing about that for everyone listening is that Betsy and I both live on the East Coast, but it took us going all the way to LA to actually meet face to face.
Yeah, but we did meet online. I mean, we spent
Absolutely.
well, that was so were we online for a year or was it 6 months? I can't quite remember
It
that. Um,
it was about 6 months because I think,
right.
or no, I mean, it was it was a little over 6 months
Yeah, it was 6
because
months, right.
6 months
August.
was the class and then Dreamtopia started,
Right.
was like 3 months after that. So yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
you've been doing great things since then.
oh, thank you. You too, though. I mean, so I was thinking about like where do I want to begin with Betsy because there's so much to talk about between your podcast, what you're doing out in your local area,
Yeah.
the things that you did in writing with Elephant Journal. It
Yeah.
was Elephant Journal, right? That
Right.
was the name of it? Okay,
Right.
yes. And, oh, and did you went to Julia Cameron in December, right?
Yes,
Did
I
you go to
did.
the oh my goodness, I still am so angry I missed that. So
That was a quite a pinnacle moment for me.
okay, so yeah, I know we all are big fans of the Artist Way here in Stop Writing Alone. What drove you to finally do an event like that with Julia, rather than, like, as all of us, we go through the book, and then Julia does have these events almost annually. So what was the onus to say, yeah, I'm gonna take the trip and go see her face to face? And did you find it, maybe this is too many questions at once, but did you find it to be more powerful than the book itself, or around, like, yeah.
Well, it's an I've had a journey with the Artist Way. I was first picked up a copy when it first came out. I believe it was in the 70s. I had been a studio art major in college, so the art way of was just pursuing art as a college major,
Mhm,
and theater major, visual arts and theater. And then when I got out of school, undergraduate, I'm sure I picked up a copy and read through it, and like a lot of people, thumbed through it, and then maybe
mhm,
did it for a week or two,
right,
started the morning pages, and then that was it. Uh,
right,
I never had joined a group like I had, like what Sam Kimberly and you guys did.
yeah,
I was never in a group like that, but over the years, I would say probably on 6 occasions or so, I would, pick up the book
mm,
again and
right.
start where I ended, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I it's so common, like, I think that's
Yeah,
how many people,
yeah.
the book is sort of like a sidekick through life, and you
Yeah,
sort of
exactly.
dip in and out when necessary.
Yeah, and interviewed, through my podcast, uh, Susan Piver. And Susan
Oh,
Piver,
yes, yes.
yeah, she's a meditation and writing teacher.
Mhm.
And I took a course with her online of meditation and writing. And
Oh, wow.
the way she started was with meditation and then free writing. And that's
Interesting.
what brought me back in touch again to morning pages. But it
Gotcha.
was in the context of the meditation and writing. So
Excellent.
that was after I had taken the course through Elephant Journal on writing,
Right,
finding your voice. So all this stuff around writing was starting to really percolate for me last summer.
right, right.
And while I was interviewing people and taking these courses, and then I came across Julia Cameron's later book called "It's Never Too Late to Begin Again."
Oh,
And it's a book that
okay.
she wrote after she wrote and became quite successful with The Artist's Way, which is about discovering creativity and meaning at midlife and beyond.
Oh, how perfect,
Yeah, and
Betsy.
she wrote this book as a result of, in the community that she lived in Santa Fe, that so many of her friends of her age, she's in her mid 70s, was
Mhm.
like, that's all great, but what about now? And
Right.
so she put together this book that really went, whoa, light bulbs went off in my head
Yeah.
because yeah.
So, yeah, what are some of the things that you think are different a shift in the conversation
Oh
when you're
man,
talking about that?
I'll tell you what it was. I mean, so I went up to New York in December, and there were about 150 people at the Open Center in New York in Manhattan,
Right. Right.
and it was a 2-day seminar. It was Saturday and Sunday, and she's very strict about how you can't like talk to her on the side, and Part of me was like, oh man, do I want to get
Yeah.
an interview with her? That kind of
Yeah.
thing. But then I decided, no, screw that. I'm not going up there to self promote, or I'm not trying to,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going there because I want to learn. I want to like
Right.
let this stuff soak in.
Yeah.
And so she gives this, her big talk, and just by the way, I'd started again with morning pages more deliberately in November. So I had already
Okay.
done 30 days of, every single day,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so not giving up on it. So I was kind of primed when I went in there. But when
Mm-hmm.
she started talking about the purpose of the morning pages in a way that I had not really heard before. So there were two things that happened. One, she talked about receiving the guidance through the morning pages. And right away, my red flags went up. Okay, so who is doing the guiding?
Guiding.
And
Who's holding the
who are
control?
they?
Right.
Because I had just spent 7 years studying
Right.
Tibetan Buddhism and
Mm.
going down the Vajrayana Buddhist path,
Oh, that's right,
where,
Betsy.
there's all this
Yes.
mysteriousness of they, right?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. So I was right away red flags. So we come back from a break, and she says, "Are there any questions?" For the first time, she
Oh,
opens it up, and
yeah.
my hand shot up like it was a rocket, and
Amazing.
I was
Right.
the first one who
Right.
had her hand up, and I stood up and I said, "Julia, with all due respect, who the fuck is they?" Because I'm not, I want my money back. If this is going to be about some extraterrestrial being coming
Oh
through my writing.
God, you did not. Oh my God,
So,
that is
and she
amazing.
was awesome. She like, man, she got
You
me so
oh, because
fast.
Betsy, you are so her people. Like
I,
that is
yeah,
you said that and she was like, there's my person right there. I
yeah,
love this.
yeah.
Oh my God. Go,
Oh
go. I must
God,
know. What did she
Nicole.
say?
It was really. So I said, I don't care.
Right,
Man,
exactly.
through what I've been through. You know,
Right.
there's no room for bullshit here.
Exactly.
So she looked at me, she goes, well, let me just say this.
Oh
Anybody
my
who
God.
doesn't believe in instinctive spirit, that there is
Right.
spirit that surrounds us, lives in the dark ages.
Wow. Okay.
So I go back to her and I say, so
Nice.
Julia, with all due respect, um, I challenge that
Oh,
because
okay.
it's got to be a you got to know it in your own heart and soul, and you can't rely on
Mhm.
someone else telling you that.
So
And
true.
she said, well, that's exactly what the morning pages are all about.
Oh,
And then
okay.
she looked at me deeper, and she said,
Yeah.
you know I feel compelled, I need to talk to you about u-turns
Oh gosh.
u-turns
Okay.
and
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
U-turns. She goes,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of creative people in their lives happen. It depends, what point in their lives they are, but they're especially creative people. They go down a road towards that creative expression, whatever it might be, whatever the media.
Yeah.
And because they either get too much praise or too little praise, they
Oh,
stop in
yeah.
their tracks and they turn and go in a different direction.
Mm.
And the older you get, the deeper you get away from that urge.
Yeah.
So
Right.
uh, it takes a transformation of some sort to recognize and to get back to that original connection.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that's the story of my life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that
Oh, wow.
changed me. That right there
Yeah.
changed me. Um,
I'm so happy you went. I'm so happy you asked that question and had this moment, Betsy. That's amazing.
it truly
Ah,
changed me
ah,
because
so good.
you know, when we took that course,
Mhm.
with Cathy Heller. And in fact, Cathy Heller, I give credit to her for this because, just I was in the depths of despair
Mm,
over a year ago. I guess it was 2018, and my job. I'm an art teacher, and
right,
art teaching is one of those things that I did a U-turn to get
right.
into, and away
Mhm,
from being an actress and a storyteller and a writer,
right.
and
Yeah,
I did the U-turn into teaching art because I figured I
right.
could not, I couldn't do it the other way. And
Yeah.
I had reached the brick wall of like, "Oh shit, this is not working for me." The politics of
Mhm.
my, working environment were overwhelming. Um,
Yeah.
I was not on my game, and I'm really close to retirement, so it's like, "What the hell am I gonna do?"
Yeah.
Right? To change the situation.
Especially if you're thinking in terms of this U-turn, it's like, what am I gonna do when I'm facing the wrong direction?
Exactly.
When I've been
I knew
totally
it,
turned
and
around. Yeah, you felt
I've
it.
known all along for 20 years how I've been an
Mm.
art teacher. I know. And I've tried
Ugh,
to work my way around this. But I mean, I've been successful at it, but it's been hard on my spirit,
right. Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah. Just because you're good at it and it's fulfilling in its own right
Right.
doesn't mean it's where you were
Right. Right.
supposed to be all that time.
So when I started listening to Kathy and Don't Keep Your Day Job,
Yeah, yeah.
which was like
Exactly.
so up so on my plate, like, okay, great. Now what do I do?
Yeah.
It's sustain just, and I have this ridiculous commute. I live in Baltimore, and I work an hour, outside of Baltimore. So, you know,
Oh my
but
goodness. I didn't realize that you were commuting so much every
yeah,
day.
and
Oh,
that's what got me into podcasts, and that's what got me listening to Cathy
ah,
Heller.
yes. Yeah, that'll do
God
it.
know, and I really don't even know how I found her podcast. So
I can't remember either.
yeah. But I started listening going, "You know what? There's something in here for me." I don't know exactly
Yeah,
what. Most
same.
people, um, were either starting out or younger than me, and I'm going, "No one's in my situation, but what the hell?" I'll glean from the
Mhm.
younger generation. That's kinda what I was thinking. So when
Yeah.
that course came up that you and I both, uh became, students of the Everyone Can podcast, I said, "Shit, this is getting close to me, back to." This is way before Julia Cameron,
Yes.
did her, intervention with me, I like to
Right,
call it.
right.
Um, it was just like, I've you put a microphone in front of me and, like I'm another person. Something happens when I'm on
Yeah.
stage, something happens. So I said, "Well, it's worth a shot." So I signed up for the course and we met, and
Yeah.
that's, how I
So cool.
started the podcast,
Yeah.
finding my voice.
Ah,
But I remember during the course with you that I didn't know what the hell my voice wanted to say. I
yes.
had no idea. I started out with
Yeah.
artist talk.
I think honestly, Betsy, that is why I say you are such a fantastic role model in so many ways because I've been beside you on this journey and I've seen you have that struggle
Yeah,
and still fight through it.
I know.
Just constantly show up and keep saying, but I know I need to say something. And in your writing and in your podcasting and now in your all your events that you're
Yeah,
going to and doing, it's like I can feel that you have like really stepped into that voice that you were searching so desperately for. I mean, do you feel like you're there? Do you feel like you're back in step with where you should be, or do you feel like you're still
Well,
looking?
first, let me say that I'm really close to tears, Nicole. That means so much to me to hear you say that,
Oh,
to give me that feedback.
easily. Easy. Easy.
I feel like there's a lot happening. I feel that
Mhm.
I know for sure, I've never stopped doing the morning pages, first of all.
Awesome.
So that's part of my life. That is my life. That is
And do you feel now like you are receiving
I'm
guidance from they?
asking, yeah, and I'm
Okay.
listening, but I'm also it's interesting because as a meditator and, that,
Mhm.
a daily I have a daily meditation practice that I've switched
Yeah.
things up though, that I do write first, and then I go into meditation after I write.
Nice.
And I
Cool.
also have to give a shout out to Sam Harris. I don't know if any of your
Okay.
listeners listen to him.
I don't. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. He's a neuroscientist and he started an app, meditation app called Waking Up. And he
Okay.
also has a podcast called Making Sense. And
Mhm.
by the
Okay.
way, he has just offered because of the virus and affecting people. Um,
Yeah.
he's offered free because he's paying. There's a paywall
Okay.
at a certain point beyond his free app and podcast, but he's
Right.
offering free access to everybody for a
Wow.
year, and it is
Oh,
fantastic.
wow. That's
He
wonderful.
is consolidating all the stuff that I went through in the Shambhala Buddhist path and the Vajrayana
I
training
see.
into
Yeah.
distilling it into an approach that is accessible for all of us. Yeah,
Amazing.
it's
That's
powerful.
great. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for that. I'll get those links and
Yeah,
share
yeah,
them in the
yeah, I'll
show
send
notes
them
for
to you.
sure.
But the way that this practice, this daily practice that I have, is putting me in touch with my inner voice in a way that
Mm.
I've only been guessing at,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Oh, that's awesome.
Um, and and so the revealing or the what Julia Cameron calls they, the
Okay.
this non-binary
Right.
term, but it's with I'm hearing it. I'm listening and I'm
Mm.
hearing, and I'm becoming more patient and less reactive and less marketing driven, which is
Yeah.
a real turning point for me.
Yeah. I think that's difficult, like, when we start out in a course like we did, where it's like, um, that's kind of the selling point. Like, oh, start a podcast and you can quit your day job because you'll make so
Right.
much money doing all these things. And it's like, okay, but there are some of us that are just rewarded by this connection on its own. And separating the two is sometimes difficult when that's how you
Well,
started.
it's really we just, finished our taxes, and there
Okay.
comes a point, though, that this
Yeah.
hobby versus real clients is a real
Mm,
line. You cannot continue to absorb your expenses in creating these
absolutely.
things for hobby level. Well, at a certain point, they're
Yeah.
business expenses, but if you're not making money at it, you can't keep doing that.
Absolutely, and that's me
Yeah,
right
me
now, like,
too.
at the 1 year mark, and I'm like, "Okay,
No,
so
we need customers. We do.
there's something that I have to shift," just because this is a labor of love and I do wanna keep doing it, and like you said, you can't maintain it
Right,
if you
right.
don't,
I mean,
you know?
right, right. So that is, so the marketing push, I know I'm a very competitive, comparing person. I mean, I came out of an Irish Catholic family with 5 brothers and sisters, right? And I had to face that part of me because I was pushing stuff
Mm,
out that only to, like I had 1,000 like followers on Instagram in a week because I went crazy trying to build up my Instagram following. And
I think I
do you
remember
remember
that,
that?
Betsy. I
I
remember
mean,
that. Yeah, and
once I get onto something, I don't give up, right?
yeah, yes.
But it
Yeah,
was
and
ridiculous.
I was worried for you because I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so much
It was
work
so
so
much work,
fast.
and,
What are you
and
doing?"
and in the meantime, none of these people were into what I was doing. It was
Right.
because
Oh,
of the
yeah.
people that I was connected to, and it just didn't make any sense.
Oh, so it wasn't like the genuine
Nope,
organic sort of
nope,
right. And I mean, it can't be if it's that
no,
fast.
no,
It just
no.
doesn't grow that
So
quickly.
now I've kind of
Oh my goodness.
come on the other hand, you know how many accountability groups I was in, and you know
Yes, yeah,
but it became
yes.
task driven rather than
Ah,
internal voice listening,
I see.
telling me what to do. So I
Yeah.
pulled out of all my accountability groups, and I
Yeah,
hired a
yeah.
personal coach
Oh,
because I
awesome.
needed that
That
one-to-one, kind of,
yes,
support.
that makes
Yeah.
so much
I'm just
sense.
too damn competitive. "Oh, she's doing that? Well, I better be doing that."
I
That kind of
see.
stuff?
I see.
It's not good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that could
It
kill you.
did. It was.
That could kill you.
It's
Yeah.
not good. It's not my speed, and everybody that I was in, contact with, well, most people, not everyone, but, have different agendas, different points in their lives, you know?
Absolutely. That's why it's like it can't serve you because it's just like you're just on wildly different paths.
Yeah,
So if you try to do the same thing, you're stretching beyond your
yeah.
needs and all of that.
So one of
But I
Yeah.
get it. Like, you know yourself, and if that's how your brain is gonna work and you found a personal coach, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
That
somebody
is
really, really good. She's a productivity coach, and so what that means is she was like one of these people that was certified to, be a declutter type of person, that goes in and
okay.
helps you
Yeah.
declutter
Yeah.
your life. Well, she's
Yeah.
also taken it further where she's decluttering your brain, decluttering your
Mm,
business, decluttering the way
I
you
love it.
approach things like,
Yeah.
outreach and streamlining, and that kind of thing.
That's great.
So, uh, she's really wonderful. Um,
Yeah.
but the other thing that I wanted to say that really came out of well, pretty much everything, was the Cathy Heller stuff. Was I decided that, and this I decided last year, that there was no way I was gonna make money off the podcast and everything I was doing, um, enough to quit my job and forsake my last 3 years of the highest pay that I have,
That's
right?
true too, right.
Which
Yeah.
builds towards
End
your
of teaching
retirement
is
for
when
the
the
rest of
time
your
is
life.
right, right.
I took a lateral move, and I decided I was, teaching digital photography, and just the tech part on that, and then the tech part on the podcast was like I'd leave a computer lab during the day with kids,
Mm,
who want me to do everything for them,
right,
and
right,
then go home and then spend, 5 hours getting people to help me do things, editing audio. It's just like, this
right.
is not good for
Yes.
me. So I did a lateral move, and the way things fell into line for me was that a person who was teaching ceramics at my school retired, and ceramics was like the very first thing I did when I went into the visual art
Mm.
track. Back in the
Oh,
70s, and
wow.
I've taught it through the
Yeah.
years. So I went back to teaching ceramics and sculpture,
Oh,
and I
how
got my hands
wonderful. I
into
kinda
material.
remember when you did that.
Yeah,
I mean, that must be so, like, I don't know, like, filling up your cup every day with that hands-on, type of art, and then, like you said, you come back, and then you can deal
yeah.
with anything techy and
Yeah.
digital. So, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. So within that context, of having that settled and reducing all that angst, I
Yeah.
started now my husband Joe and I, uh, he's been playing the music on my podcast. Yeah,
Love
he
it.
did you know that Bob Dylan gave us permission to use Forever Young?
Oh, I remember that day, Betsy. I remember that day. Yeah, tell her let everybody know because that is so
I know.
amazing and so
It was like one
wonderful.
of those things, well, God, Forever Young, wouldn't that be the perfect, the words of that song are just so beautiful for
Yeah,
every age, no matter how old you
yeah,
are. To
that's right.
stay open and to stay curious and to wish that for everyone you know. That's what the song is. And he wrote it. Bob Dylan wrote that song for his son. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, so Joe and I were looking at each other going, I said, "Wouldn't that be a great song?" Because Joe was playing it one day on his guitar, and I said, "You know what? What the hell? I'm gonna
That's right.
ask him." And
Just
I
ask.
searched the internet, like, how do you reach Bob Dylan? And somewhere embedded in some article was Jeff Rosen's PO box address in New York City, who is his business manager. And I wrote him a handwritten letter because there was no email.
Oh, yeah.
And 2 months later, I got my letter back, and written at the bottom of it by Jeff Rosen was, Bob says this is great, just as long as you use it for these terms. And that was it.
Oh my god. Oh, Betsy, amazing. I mean, what a huge lesson to everyone. Like, just
Just
ask.
ask. Yeah, just
Just
ask.
ask. It didn't cost you anything, it doesn't hurt at all, and, you almost asked expecting a no,
Right,
right? Because you're like, It's never gonna
right.
happen." And then what happened? You got a
Yeah, we got a
yes.
yes. And then what happened with
Oh,
that was that it brought Joe into my sphere. Because then we started
mhm.
recording, in my little studio, different versions of it, and then we started, doing little ditties to, plug into the podcast, and then you're right, and it
Amazing.
got us thinking, "Well, let's do this together more," and that's when the event started.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, please. I mean, it's really so I'm not sure everyone even realizes this, but you got married. When you say your husband, it's
Yeah,
not like I think there's an
right.
assumption, right? Like, oh, Betsy's elder and wiser. This is her husband
Yeah,
of banana
30,
number
40
of years.
years, right?
Yeah. How long have you and Joe
Well,
been
we had our
married,
first
Betsy?
anniversary last October.
And I remember and that's part of the wonder that is Betsy, that in the middle of developing a podcast and doing all this, she's like, "Yes, but I'm also getting married very soon." And we were like, "Wait, what is
I
happening?"
know, I
So
know.
so I love that because that is a shift that I noticed. I was like, "Oh, Joe is definitely more" and I got to meet Joe
Yeah, he
in
came out
LA
with me.
too,
He
and
wanted to hear
for
Cathy.
forever my hero because he bought us all coffee the first time we met. I'm like, "Joe is my coffee guy." But, so a really, really great guy, and then so I noticed that shift as well. I didn't realize it was as a result of the music, but that makes so
Yeah.
much sense. So the 2 of you start working together, which is, like, the sweetest thing, and you guys are so adorable and so wonderful,
Oh, thank you.
and again, this is another space where you're such a role model, Betsy, because I feel like you really step into all aspects of your life. And so here you and Joe get together and say, let's do events.
Yeah,
And please tell us more because you've had writing events, you've had pop up art
yeah.
shows. I don't know if you're hosting, but I see that you guys are doing some comedy now.
Well,
What is like?
well, it
Take us on the journey, Betsy. Take us on the
know.
journey.
Thank
What's
you, Nicole,
happening?
for even letting me lay this out because sometimes my mind is so blown by what we're doing, and we're not really pushing social media so much yet. And we're
Right.
trying to like say, okay, let this thing organically grow and get a handle on where we're going. It's just so
I love that.
interesting, really, what's happening. Yes,
Yeah.
it is. So well, first of all, my husband Joe and I work in the same school system. We are both are teachers, and we both got into this line of work separately at about the same age. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah,
Wow.
at about age 50, we changed
Mm,
careers. And I'm now
gotcha.
67, and Joe is, almost 70, and we're not ready to
Right.
quit. We
Yeah.
also got into this late, so, we don't we both agree that when we first got into teaching, people our age were counting down the days to retirement.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. Yes. The hours, forget
Yeah,
the days.
exactly. It's ridiculous. People had, like a timer going on. It was like,
Absolutely.
"What? This is discouraging," but, again, I couldn't pay attention because that wasn't my lane. I was just getting in.
Mm,
And, so we got into teaching after changing our careers at 50 and, starting over. Uh,
gotcha.
I came back into Maryland, just about 10 years ago, but I was up in Pennsylvania and Joe was in Maryland. But to make a long story short, we're both art teachers in our, like my third career, his probably third career. And we both have a real interest in creating opportunities, creating experiences for high school kids in our art rooms.
Yeah.
And so we started thinking, well, let's fold that out into the community and see if we can touch into needs that people in our age group or just in the city of Baltimore would be interested in. So the first thing we did was an intuitive painting workshop. And the cool
Cool.
thing is that Joe has been a practicing artist all of his life. He's never stopped. He never did a U-turn. He was always on track. He's an abstract painter.
Oh,
He's been running,
yeah.
live drawing sessions every week for 25 years. He's an
Wow.
established artist in Baltimore, and he's also a member of the oldest running artist co-op in Baltimore, which is a housing. He has a
Wow.
studio in this and a gallery. So that's how we were able to find a space and a
Gotcha.
community, sort of, to actually hold these events. So,
Okay. That
yeah,
makes
that's a
so much
really key
sense. Yeah.
point.
Okay. For
And
sure.
he also has a studios in the same building. So our first event was intuitive painting, which was attended by a handful of people. It was fine, and we're doing all these things for free. We're not charging yet. Um, and then we
Okay.
did a blackout poetry event in the gallery.
I remember that.
That was
Very
very cool.
cool.
And then we did a writing and meditation workshop, which was very cool in the gallery.
Very
I
cool
know.
also.
And then the last event was a storytelling event. And
Yes, I
that's
saw
what
that.
grew out of all this comedy stuff that we've been going to.
So what exactly is a storytelling event? Is it are people telling true stories
Yes.
or is it
It's
any kind of
based upon
story?
the
Is it
moth,
the
okay, which
moth?
is
Okay,
very
that's what I
well
was
known
yeah,
out of Brooklyn,
right.
and they
Yeah.
have a podcast, and there's an offshoot of that here in Baltimore also called Stoop Storytelling. But,
Okay.
undaunted by that, I'm thinking, "Oh, we need another one," I still did it, and it was like a major success. I mean, there were like 50
That's awesome.
people there. It was, like, amazing. And I lined up about 9 other storytellers, and it was all around art because it was in the
Oh,
gallery where the theme of the show
yeah.
was called Au Naturel. So I
Yes.
invited people to come in and tell stories around the theme of Au Naturel.
So when you say you invited people, you said you're trying to stay did you do anything on
Okay,
social
okay,
media?
good
How are you
question.
getting the
Good
word
question.
out?
So, way back when we took our course, I set up and I
Yeah.
was not into Elder and Wiser yet, I was into Artist Talks. So, I set up a
Yes.
meetup. Remember that?
The meetup group.
Which is
Yes,
still
yes,
going. I
yes.
mean, it just talk about organic. I'm now up to like 800 people are a member of this meetup. And so
Oh,
yeah,
that's
and so I
amazing.
was just for the heck of it, setting up, looking through the calendar through Baltimore and setting up events where artists would give talks, and then put it on the calendar, invite people. And then we held a couple, well, I take that back. We held a couple of artist talks in the gallery. I did a photography show of my work, and Joe did painting, and we did artist talk. So we kept putting these things out there. So and then
I see.
I set up two other meetups. So yeah, it's called
Oh,
Creative Aging, and then another one is Boomer Women. And so between all those meetups, I have contact to with over 1,000 people.
amazing. And you still have, was it the original was called
Yeah,
Artist
no, that's
Talks? Is
still
that still
running. And then and I haven't
okay?
quite sure where I'm gonna go with all that, but and then on my Facebook, I have, I don't know, 800 people or something on Facebook. And then the gallery probably has about 1,000, and Joe has about 800 on his own Facebook. And I have to say that the storytelling event, well, I didn't even know some of these people. It was the
That's
way the
amazing.
Facebook algorithm worked.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
interesting.
because everyone we asked,
So did you guys do like Facebook ads, or it was
uh,
just posting it
we
on your
put it on the
personal page?
events. The gallery put it on the events.
Okay.
And
I
then
see.
that started, it was interesting. So now,
Yeah.
yeah.
Really great.
So now, there's a woman that I interviewed, who talked about death cafes, and one of my listeners in the Baltimore area is really interested in starting a death cafe. And
Oh my God.
that was gonna be the next event, but I think we're gonna have to cancel it given the,
Oh,
the
with everything
social
going on, yeah.
distancing thing we have to do. But that was gonna be the next thing. And then beyond that, I know I have to start charging money. I mean, I have to figure out how to make this.
Do you charge for meetup
No,
members
I
at
don't.
all, or
I don't. I pay for that
yeah,
out of
I
pocket.
mean, I charge a ridiculous, like, $3 a
Oh,
year
do
for my
you?
meetup members right now, just to cover, because I did max my group at, I think, whatever is the amount before the meetup price
Oh,
goes up.
okay. Yeah.
So whatever, so that it's only $50 a year or $60 a year, whatever it is, and then I'm like, "Okay, if they give me $3 a year, that covers
Oh, I
that
see.
cost." But you know what I'm saying? Literally just to
Right.
cover those costs, but I know that you can
Right.
charge, a
Right.
meetup like that, but some people charge a lot to be a part of a meetup
Oh, that's
group,
interesting.
so
Yeah. Yeah, I got that's part of the next journey. But in the context of this whole coronavirus epidemic, or pandemic, is that this problem of social isolation and how it affects the age group in which I'm serving has really
yes,
stunned me in terms of the damage that it's going to do to people who are already isolated,
that's
and
right.
their need for connection, which
Yeah,
is a mission that I have. I want to connect people together and not to fall to prey to isolation, because it's the number one health hazard beyond viruses, uh, for
that's right.
seniors. So it's like, holy smokes.
So is that I'm just wondering, because I know me personally, like, I'm really great for putting together any kind of virtual event anyone wants, but when it comes to these types of events that you and Joe are doing, I feel imposter syndrome through the roof. Is it, do you think your drive to create this social connection that helps you get over that, or is it just not a thing that on your radar? You're like
Okay,
totally cool with
so are
this
you
from
referring to, like, who the hell am I to run a writing and meditation workshop? Something like that?
That's part, yeah, that would definitely be part of
Or
my
like,
thing, for sure.
intuitive painting, right?
Yeah. I mean, you guys are so eclectic and wonderful, and I'm like, "Okay." So and I totally think both of you are, the right people to be doing this. But then I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, so why can't I make that
Okay,
leap
so
myself?
I think that's a really good question. Um, I think it's because it's not necessarily the expertise in skill. It's the
Right.
expertise in communicating with people and having them open up their own curiosity to choose their own path. And I'm gonna say
Yeah.
that a little bit more specific. Like, for example, if you were to, uh, lead a group in meditation without having any
Right.
meditation, experience, that would not be the right thing to do. But if you
Yeah.
led a group to say, "Let's sit quietly, and listen to what comes up for you, and then let's write about that." That's in
Mm,
your purview of experience. It's where you're pushing yourself down that path to develop the
yeah.
expertise, and these people are joining you in your journey.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how I feel when I do virtual things. That I'm like, okay, I'm doing this thing. Does anybody want to do it with me? That's great. But for I just always have that, like, can I really do that face to face? Meanwhile, I have my writing group, and I think that's the way I come at it. I think I just have to wrap my head around it. But I'm also wondering about people who listen to Stop Writing Alone. I'm always telling people, like, if you can't find your writing group, then you can create your writing group. So I'm just wondering if that's one of the things that holds people back. So I think that's really, really great advice, is just sort of to be alongside as you allow people to explore their own curiosity. That's
Well,
great, Betsy.
Nicole, here's the thing. I think, in the environment that we're living in, people are starving, will continue and deepen their need for connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people who can connect people, you of anyone I know, I've only spent what was it, 72 hours with
Right.
you in person.
Right.
You are magnificent at being a people connector. People let down their guard with you. They open up with you. You know, that's priceless.
Thank you. Now you're getting me back. Now you get me.
It is.
No,
It's
thank you.
golden.
I do feel very comfortable when I can do that for people, when I'm in the moment. It's it's the whole idea of, like, setting up a moment that I'm like, "Oh, that's not not me." And it's silly because, like, when I'm there, then I'm like, "Do you know this person? Do you wanna" it's like it's
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, a thing that I like to do. And you know what it is? When you talk about this social isolation and your community of elders and how they feel it, I think because of my disease and the years that I had where I was battling to get into remission, like, I can totally empathize with that. Where I had to leave teaching, stay home and heal. I had my husband and I had my dogs. These were the guys that I'd see every day, but my husband was gone like most of the day. And I
Right.
felt that absence. Going from a career like teaching, where you are interacting with
Right.
hundreds of humans every single day, to hanging at home with the
Right.
dogs is, that'll wake you up, you know? So
Right. When you were in that period of time, did you have to socially isolate? Was
I
that
was in
part of
so
the
much pain
quarantine?
because a lot of it, so it
Oh,
was my vision was affected, so I couldn't really see. Yeah, and
oh,
then the
man.
headaches were unbearable. So I spent a lot of time just, like, laying down
Oh,
and just praying for the pain to end, you know? So I wasn't useful
yeah.
to anyone. I was just suffering, you know?
So what was helpful? What now looking back, what might have been helpful that wasn't around then for you? to
Well,
for
I
comfort.
did start to find things. I mean, I started to do meditation and I started to receive like Reiki treatments. And then that is the time that I really did start to connect with people online. It was people connecting, in the one way that I could do it. That
Yeah.
like it,
How did you connect with people online during that
I
time?
started blogging. And Facebook was always like the first go to. Like when I was in the hospital, I went onto Facebook and just told everybody where I was and what was going on so that I didn't have to, or my husband didn't have to like call everyone every single
Oh,
day
okay.
with the updates. So that
Uh-huh.
began my real like feeling truly connected to people through social media because it was my one tether back to everyone. And
Yeah.
and then I started blogging on my own to sort of like explore what was going on with me. So my first blog was about food and eating organic and all of this because it was really like what I was struggling with. I'm like, I must be poisoning myself. I don't know what else is
Hmm.
going on.
Right.
And I started to find various communities there. So it really
Oh,
what
right, right.
helped was people. And what helped was finding my people. So my disease was very rare. I knew no one that had it. The doctors didn't even know what it was called when they first, it was like a real, like everyone coming around, like, oh, we didn't know about this.
Right.
But then when I was online, I found people that had it and understood the pain and the
Wow.
brain fog and everything. So that's why I think it's very easy for me to see that natural connection when I'm virtually connecting with people because that's where I first sort of really entered into these large groups and
Yeah,
connected.
and when I first met you, through the Everyone Can Podcast course, um, you were the great communicator of that group.
That's my comfort zone, like that was always it. And I noticed that like everybody would be like, oh, Nicole is so on. And I'm like, I just have more practice here.
Yes,
I have
and
so
more
much
than that,
more practice.
you were a problem solver.
I That's the teacher. That is the teacher
Yeah,
telling me,
yeah,
like, I can't see somebody struggle if I think I can help you. That's like
and I
you're the student in the corner that's still not getting it. I'm coming to you. I'm coming.
I'm getting
Here
there.
I
Right, right,
come.
right, right, right. Right, and that I think in this time that we are finding ourselves, that's our yeah, I think it's our purpose
It's mine.
as communicators.
I can't not do that, I realize.
Yeah,
That's what
wow.
this whole journey has taught me that I love, writing and I love connecting people in community, but my soul's deepest purpose is to make sure that anyone in my circle is trying to that I can help them reach and see their fullest potential. Like I
Well, that sure sounds like a coach to me.
well, and that's what I was trained. I was trained as a teacher to coach and I can't shake it. Can't shake it. But
Yeah.
Betsy, this has been I'm so happy we got to catch up, first of all.
I know,
It's
right?
been so long, and I'm so happy that everything is going so wonderfully. So if people wanna, connect with you, get to the events, we're saying, "Let's go to Meetup," is
Yeah, there's meetups in Baltimore, that's a
right,
local thing.
right.
And, the best way to go, is to get onto
Oh, well, of course,
elderandwiser.org,
Elder and
my
Wiser,
website.
please. Elder
Yeah.
and Wiser, the podcast is please, ladies and gentlemen, let's not think that this is only for the Elder and Wiser. This is such amazing conversation for all of us. I love
Oh,
your podcast, and so yeah, we have the podcast, but there's a website also.
yes,
Okay,
yes, elderandwiser.org.
awesome, awesome.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Betsy, for
thank you.
everything, for showing
Thank
up
you,
the way
Nicole.
you do. And for being here, of course. I will tell you this. You say you were surprised that I called you up. I have wanted to interview you for this podcast since like the beginning, but I know you
Oh
had
my goodness.
so much going on. I was like, I'm not even going to go there. So for me, this is like way long overdue. I'm so happy we got to do this, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, from the bottom of my heart, Nicole, thank you. I'm so glad I know you and that I'm in your loop.
Yeah. Same. I feel blessed. I really feel blessed. And go give Joe a hug for me. I'm
Okay.
still grateful. I'm still grateful for the coffee. And
All right,
wish him
Nicole.
a happy anniversary of our first coffee date.
Right. All my best to you.
Yeah, same here.
Well, for any of you that are in Baltimore, I hope you will take the opportunity to go into the show notes and check out Betsy's meetup group. Also, follow Betsy on the Elder and Wiser page and Facebook. That's for all of you, Baltimore and beyond. Just to hear what's going on in Betsy's podcast, which is just some amazing in-depth interviews on so many wonderful topics. You've heard Betsy, you see who we're dealing with. It's nothing but good there. So Elder and Wiser, wherever you listen to podcasts, go check it out. But also just head straight on over to our website, elderandwiser.com. I'm really so grateful to have had Betsy here this week. I hope you enjoyed the interview, and I hope you are being safe this week and doing what you can to keep busy if you are stuck at home. For those of you who are still out there being our essential workers and doing what needs to be done to keep us all safe, I can't thank you enough. I will talk to you again next week. Have a wonderful week. Happy writing. And if you're staying tuned to the writing prompts that I give every single week, remember the YouTube channel is NV Rivera, and you will get a brand new prompt this Friday. Otherwise, until next week, thank you as always for listening.
Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the Stop Writing Alone podcast wherever you're listening to this episode today. Then connect with us on Facebook at Stop Writing Alone Facebook page or in the Stop Writing Alone with Nicole Rivera Facebook group. Check Instagram or Twitter where I'm at NV_Rivera to find links to our email newsletter.